everyone, it's Jessica. I'm here today with a mystery envelope challenge video. Now, if you've never seen any of our mystery envelope challenges before, basically my friends in the Makers with Heart group are taking turns sending each other a couple of pieces in the mail, and then we all make a project using those same pieces. And it's a lot of fun to see what everybody comes up with, and we have no clue. We don't show each other beforehand. Now, March was actually my turn to send out the mystery envelope, so I sent out a piece of green apple cardstock and then 2 pieces from the Cake Day collection that's new from the March and April catalog. And then I also pulled in this black and white piece. It's actually an old Christmas paper, but I thought maybe the black and white side would come in handy because it kind of goes along with that Cake Day. And then I've got a little bit of the zip strip and also some silver shimmer trim. Now, part of having a turn sending out the envelope means that you get to make the rules. So one of my rules was that we could use only wild berry colored embellishments. So you can stamp and do inks and shimmer brushes and anything like that, but that's one of the things that we get to do. I also said that you could use 1 additional piece of paper and then also either white or black cardstock. And so I'm going to use this piece of white cardstock and then this mix-in paper in the lagoon pattern to scrapbook these 2 pictures here of my son on his 2nd birthday party a couple of years ago. And I'm going to be following this post that I saw on Pinterest because I thought that I could probably use these little tiny pieces of paper and make it work for a 12 by 12 layout. So those 2 pieces of Cake Day were cut to 4 by 6, and so I'm just going to stack them one on top of the other. And then I'm taking that black and white pattern and I cut it in half so it ends up being about 3/4 of an inch. And where those all of those papers kind of meet there in the middle, I am going to cover that up. So it'll just look like one seamless piece of a couple of strips of paper there. Now I used my extra piece of paper to cut out a couple of circles from that lagoon pattern mix-in paper. And then I want to use this zip strip, but again, it's not quite big enough to go the whole length of my page, so I'm going to cut it in half. And as a little trick, whenever I have a tiny piece of paper that I am trying to cut and I want to keep it straight as I'm running my blade through it, I just line everything up on my trimmer and then I use a little bit of washi tape to hold it in place, and then it cuts just fine. And so that's just a little hack for you if ever you're trying to, mess with those tiny little pieces that don't kind of hold still when you are cutting them and you want to keep it all straight. So now that I have that zip strip cut down to 1/4 of an inch, I can kind of do the same thing here that I have done with those other pieces of paper and stack them. And then again, I'm going to be hiding that seam there in the middle so it'll look like I just have 3 different strips of 12-inch paper. Okay, and so then here I'm going to use this circle that I have used my circle thin cut for to cover up part of that seam. And then I'm going to have the other 2 on the top and the side. And then my photos will be touching here. And so this is my basic plan. That's my basic plan. And then I'm kind of stuck. This is kind of the way it seems to be working here is like, you do a little something, you're like, all right, what next? So on the sketch that I'm looking at on Pinterest, it does show that this piece of 12 by 12 is actually matted on another piece of paper. I can't do that according to my rules. So I'm going to just kind of fudge that a little bit by grabbing this border stamp. This is from one of the Stamp of the Months from last year, from 2021. And I have grabbed the one that's got like a whole bunch of different polka dots on it. And I'm using my green apple ink, and I'm going to go along the top and the bottom of my white daisy cardstock. And it doesn't look like it's matted on another piece of paper, but at least it still kind of gives that same sort of look and illusion that I am seeing in the sketch on Pinterest. And I really like how that brings in that green apple pop of color. And I also off camera just took those Cake Day pieces and I edge distressed those with my green apple ink as well. Okay, so now I'm just trying to kind of see, is there anything else I need to do before I commit to adhering these down? And I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to go. So I'm going to pull out my T-square ruler and get my piece of paper here all set up on my Versamat. I love using that to make sure everything goes on straight. And, you know, the thing about Pinterest is usually aren't really any measurements. I'm just kind of eyeballing about how far over I want it to go. And I think I lined it up so that it was 5 inches from the right, if I remember correctly. And then just trying to, again, make sure everything is straight. Not too worried about that seam right there, because if it doesn't match up exactly, again, that part will be covered. So I'll just finish adhering this off camera so you don't have to watch me glue it all down. But now I'm ready to kind of start thinking about some of those extra little touches here. So I still have this piece of green apple cardstock, and I would really actually like to mat my photos. I think that would kind of help create a little division there where I'm going to have them on my page, but I don't have a big enough piece. So I am going to make my own piece of green apple cardstock. And I have just taken a piece of white daisy because I am allowed to bring in, you know, white, either white or black. So I've grabbed a piece of white and I have just cut it to, it's about 1/4 of an inch bigger than my photos when they are stacked on top of each other. So that way I have 1/8 of an inch reveal all the way around. And then using my little blending brush here, I am picking up some green apple ink and just adding it to the edges all the way around. And this ends up looking really cool. You can't really tell unless you're looking closely that it's not a piece of green apple cardstock that I've matted my photos in. And when you do see it in person, it just has this really kind of soft look to it. I don't know, there's just a little bit of the cardstock that is showing in this mat, but it ends up looking really cool. And definitely this is what those photos needed to stand out a little bit on that page, was just something to kind of make them pop just a tiny little bit. So there you go, another little hack. If you don't have the color cardstock that you need, but you do have the ink color, then make your own cardstock. So there you go, colored cardstock. There, doesn't that work? You can't even really tell that I didn't use a piece of green apple cardstock. So there, that was my cheat way around it. Okay, so I did take that green apple piece of cardstock and I used some star images on my Cricut to cut out 3 different stars. One of them is slightly bigger and the other 2 are the same size. And my plan is to just scatter these around the page, maybe where those circles are. So I know I definitely want the biggest one to go over here to the left of my photos. And I think at first that I want to put 2 of them down here by this bottom circle, but I do end up moving one of those later. Now they're just a little plain looking, so I grabbed my white gel pen, and those do come in a pack of 3, and I used the nib that has the biggest size to it, so it was the 10. And then I go around and I make a little white doodle line all the way around the inside of each of my 3 stars. And it just kind of really helps to make those stand out a little bit. I thought about maybe sanding the edges to reveal the white core, but this was just actually a little bit faster and less messy. So there, you can see there how fun that is. And off camera, I will go ahead and do the same thing to those 2. I'm also off camera going to add a couple of stamped journal lines right there so that they are coming out from behind my photo. Now, this probably won't come as a surprise if you've been watching my channel for a while, but I do love to add hand stitching to my projects. In fact, I was just laughing with my friends in the Makers with Heart group the other day that that's kind of a signature move that I like to do, and we all have our own little things. Like Amanda from Crafting with Amanda loves to add flowers. And, you know, Kim is really good at doing like the paper piecing different animals and people and things of that nature. And everybody just kind of has like her own thing. And so stitching is mine. And I'm going to go around the inside of these circles and poke a couple of holes as a guide for that stitching. And since I had those circle thin cuts sitting out on my desk, I had used them to cut that lagoon paper originally. I grabbed the smaller size down circle to use as a guide for punching those holes. And then I also right here, I'm going to grab just an even smaller circle and kind of put it off here into the white space of my layout and poke some circle holes here as well, and just as a little detail. And then off camera, I will use 4 strands of green embroidery thread and a back stitch to go around and add that stitching to my project. And I love the way that that ends up looking. So yeah, definitely it's a signature move of mine. I love to add that hand stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and start adhering the rest of these pieces down here. I'm going to put my photos down, and now you can't even see, that I have that seam there where all those papers are meeting in the middle. And then I'm going to use some foam tape to pop up these stars. So while I am doing that, let me just share with you that the other ladies in the Makers with Heart group have also created something with these very same pieces that I sent them in the mystery envelope. And like I said before, I haven't seen them. We all it's a surprise on the day that we go live on our videos, and I'm very excited to see what they have made and what their extra piece of paper was and what kind of sort of projects that they made. So make sure that you check out those links down in the description box below so that you can kind of see what everybody did. We have a lot of fun doing this. And like I said, we're just kind of taking turns. Each month, one of us will cut some things up and send some stuff off in the mail, and then we all start creating. It's really kind of become one of my very favorite challenges. Okay, and so I'm going to finish putting these stars around. And I'm deciding to put this second one, or I'm sorry, the second small one up here by over to the left-hand side. Because that stitching, when I added that circle, it just didn't quite work the way that I had originally wanted to put the star down. So I moved it over there. And then off camera, I am going to stamp my title here. I did stamp that off camera just because I wanted to make sure I could line it up and I had to put my head in the shot. So I used the simple serif uppercase alphabet, and then I also pulled that UR sentiment from the Desserts a la Whirl stamp set, and I stamped that in Lagoon and Wildberry ink. And now I think I've used everything except for my silver shimmer trim. And one of the last things that I had in the rules was that any embellishments, unless it was something we made ourselves, had to be in the Wildberry color. So these are my Wildberry enamel dots, and I'm just scattering them around my 3 different clusters and using some various sizes in the dots there. And that's it. Even though this is a page from my son's scrapbook, it's from his 2nd birthday party a couple of years ago, I thought that Wildberry pop of color worked really well with my grandma's shirt. This is definitely a special page to make. I have a lot of photos from this day and his birthday party, but I wanted to have just one separate page that was showcasing these particular photos because the woman in the pink there on the right is my grandma, and she is actually about to celebrate her 101st birthday here in about another month. And then the woman there on the left in the green sweatshirt is my husband's grandma, and she has since passed away. So this is just a really special set of pictures for me and page here to kind of show my son with his 2 great grandmas, hence the reason that the title is You Are Great. So I'm kind of playing off that great grandma title there. So there we go. We're all done. I hope you guys enjoyed. And like I said, make sure that you go through those links and see what the other ladies in the Makers with Heart group have created. Like I said, it is so much fun. It's like Christmas morning when we get to see what everybody made because it's a surprise for us as well. All right, guys, I hope you have enjoyed watching and that you feel inspired. And if you see anything that you love, I will post a couple of links down below to the products that I have used. But as always, thank you so much for watching and happy crafting.